If you go to broadwayworld.com/Philadelphia, you can find the link to vote for the 2017 awards. We will also be posting a link on our social media. But please vote for me and Reefer Madness as Best Musical and Meg Cranny for Best Actress in a Musical. It would mean a lot to us to get this kind of recognition. Thanks a lot, Dissectomaniacs. Don't you forget about me.
Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers. And with me is a man who knows that the best way to celebrate Thanksgiving is with America's sweetheart, Tom Hanks. The Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Lano. See, you're getting to the point where you're throwing the word America, you're throwing the phrase America's sweetheart out there like I do, which is like water.
Tom Hanks has a legitimate case of being thought of as America's sweetheart.
I know, but I feel like he's like the third or fourth person you've referred to as such.
But this is the only time in which it's not blatantly fake and untrue.
I think when we involve the Toy Story movies.
I'm saying this is the only time it's not obvious. Like, people actually do think Tom Hanks is great. I always say it about, like, random schmucks. Yes. We, of course, celebrated Thanksgiving as we do every year on this show by celebrating Tom Hanks with T. Hanksgiving. Hat tip to Alamo Drafthouse's promotion from 4 years ago that they probably don't even remember. This year's edition is the Shelley Long starring The Money Pit. So you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your T. Hanksgiving. Something's gotta be done about your T. Hanksgiving. It just gets worse and worse.
When the Mega Powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega Powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Grab yourself some turkey leg and some stuffing and mashed potatoes and get away from your loved ones because you know you're sick of hearing that uncle or aunt or whomever go ranting on for the 13th time about some incorrect piece of information they read on Facebook, some website like globalwarsnet.info buzz. Put those headphones on and enjoy us talking about a Tom Hanks film.
Pretend you're napping for the next hour.
Exactly. For my money, the best way to celebrate the holiday is away from everyone that means anything to you with two dorks you've never met before.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into the Money Pit. We start off, we're in Rio de Janeiro, and there's a very crazy big wedding happening. And I'm confused because I don't see Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? I'm so confused. And then it's the older man is marrying a much younger woman and starts saying something about his clearly a deadbeat son. I don't think he uses that phrase, but the heavy implication is my deadbeat son. And then we cut to New York where Tom Hanks is, and he's the deadbeat son, but he's talking as though his father is the deadbeat and he actually works hard. And that's never elaborated on or explained or clarified in any way.
No, the dad stole a bunch of money.
Yeah, but he refers to Tom Hanks. He's like, my deadbeat son. Like, I would never go back. Like, the way it felt in the beginning to me was like...
Oh, I thought the dad was clearly lying to the woman about why he was in Rio.
Oh, that could be a thing.
What I got from it was like, she does not know that he stole a bunch of money, and he does.
Got it. Okay.
I also want to talk about, there's like 3 or 4 scenes like this in the movie, but the first one is right here off the bat where Tom Hanks gets a letter from his dad and he's explaining it to his fiance, wife?
Somewhere between girlfriend and fiance.
Okay. And it's this strange point of view shot where you can see the hands and he's like holding a postcard and he's doing a voiceover. And there's like 3 or 4 of them in the movie, but it's such an odd thing to have characters talk through this as a thing instead of having a line of dialogue. And I guess it gets around having to do, and later they use it for a phone call so you don't have to show like the cut back and forth of 2 guys on the phone. But it feels like, oh shit, this movie doesn't make sense. We have to slap some scenes together for continuity and we can't get the actors in for reshoots. So like get him into a recording booth and let him do a couple lines of dialogue and the director just like filmed his own hands. It's very strange.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna bug me the whole time, but I feel like there's a movie or a TV show that employs a very similar shot style for parts of it. I don't remember what it is.
Like POV. Man, my brain.
Pay-per-view.
Of like hands moving objects.
Yeah, it's sort of. I want to say it's like a silly comedy movie, but I'm not gonna remember it in the next few minutes. But I think there's a movie out there like that, and yeah. So for me, I was like, oh, that's a thing. That's like a silly comedy movie thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's as far as like filmmaking stuff goes. It's not like, oh, the horror. I can't believe you did that. It was just odd to me that they wouldn't just have the actors have these conversations. It just seemed a little out of place. But in any case, the director of this movie directed a very strange film in the 90s called Milk Money, in which a young boy befriends a prostitute. To just put it out there, that there's a weird pedigree on this particular film.
I've never heard of that movie. Is anyone famous in it?
I rented it, so it was like
a while ago.
I mean, well, yes. I mean, I think it was positioned as like a children's movie, is what I'm saying.
What?
Yeah, like it's definitely not a film for adults. It's not, like a serious Oscar-contending drama about a boy and a prostitute becoming friends. It's definitely more along the lines of aimed at children, which, as we've said and we've discovered in the show, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually for children.
Next year, it's going to be Jennifer Lawrence and that kid from Stranger Things and It in that movie you just described.
Milk Money, the remake.
Yeah.
1994 American romantic comedy film starring Melanie Griffith and Ed Harris.
No, Melanie Griffith is a pretty big name.
Yeah, well, we already covered her on the show getting her face ripped off, if you'll recall, way back in the days of Roar.
Oh, that's right.
This film is about three suburban 11-year-old boys who find themselves behind in the battle of the sexes, believing they would regain the upper hand if they could just see a real live naked lady. So maybe this wasn't aimed at children. Somehow I saw this movie. I don't know why, but somehow I saw this movie. That's neither here nor there. Oh God. This is not going to become Trip Reads Wikipedia, but I'm going to read this one line. The film received mostly negative reviews. Siskel and Ebert gave it a thumbs down and speculated mockingly that it may have been made by Hollywood executives with an affinity for hookers and their desire to make films about them for lack of knowing women in any other professions. That's a pretty good zinger, Siskel and Ebert.
Oh,
nicely done.
They're throwing all the shade.
In print, Roger Ebert opted not for a conventional negative review, but to portray it as the result of a fictional conversation between studio executives.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Oh, this is actually pretty clever. It's like a, studio executive A, studio executive B having like, so what's the premise? We got kids, we got sex, we got romance,
so
but it's a
us
family
talking
picture.
about how movies get made.
Yes, exactly. Ebert was we stole our gimmick from Ebert. We had no idea. This is pretty funny. I have to say, I'm reading this. I'm not going to read this review out, but anyway, I don't know why I got sidetracked at Milk Money for 9 minutes. I actually kind of like Money Pit.
Yeah, so I want to say that off the bat. Like, normally I take like 2 or 3 pages of notes on things that I haven't seen before. I took maybe a page and a half because I was just like genuinely enjoying the movie.
Yeah, the two of them have really good chemistry together. It's really fun and lively. It's a lot of physical comedy, which can be hit or miss, but I like it here largely.
Yeah,
there's a few times where it gets a little stupid for my taste, but largely it's pretty good.
I like that they actually seem in love, and it makes sense for the two of them, like physically and like socioeconomic. Like, there's nothing weird. Like, I don't understand why these two people are together. Like we had with Bev and the Goot in Daryl Hannah's a Ghost.
High Spirits.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh no, these two make sense together. They actually seem to enjoy each other. It was a nice breath of fresh air.
They're close in age, which is extremely rare for this kind of situation. Yes. So we cut to sexy clothes on the floor, and like you hear them talking in bed, and you're like, oh, it's like a sexy morning after a sexy night together. And then cut to like they're in bed in 1950s style flannel pajamas. Like he has on a 2-piece like button down shirt and pants combo. She has on a similar like feminine version of that. I have expected him to be like chomping on a pipe and being like, well, hello.
Yeah, and she needed like a ladies' home journal.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get a sighting of 80s icon Yakov Smirnoff bursting into the room. You may remember him from such classic jokes as, in Soviet Russia, thing opposite happens as in America.
Oh, wait, that's him?
Uh-huh. The dude who bursts in and is like, he's coming home today. What are you doing in here? He's blah,
Oh,
blah,
wow,
blah.
I didn't know that.
That's the classic Yakov Smirnoff. Fun fact, Yakov Smirnoff has, maybe still has, but at least at one point had a theater in Branson, Missouri. He no longer performs at it, but for a time he had like a standing, 5 or 6 nights a week like Celine Dion in Vegas, presumably doing the same material still, which is why I desperately want to see Branson, Missouri, but I also don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, I want to. What is happening in Branson, Missouri? Isn't that a Mormon thing?
No, it's not. It's kind of like Pigeon Forge, except no Dolly Parton theme park.
Oh, right.
So, if anyone out there wants to just send me to Branson, Missouri to do a podcast, I would be happy to do that. If we have a mysterious benefactor out there, I will be your.
Because then it's going to turn into the Christmas Wish movie.
You think I come to find the
yeah, it's going to be like you're going to be John Denver, and that means I'm your daughter who wants a dollhouse, and I just don't have the time for that.
But what if we discover the true meaning of Christmas in America is in Branson, Missouri? This whole time it was in Branson, Missouri.
It's like that episode of 30 Rock where the state of Connecticut would sponsor the movie only if it was an ad for the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so they start bringing in all these decorations and things that belong to the man who they're subletting this apartment from, who it turns out is Shelley Long's ex-husband, who is also her boss, which is a weird situation to find yourself
I was
in.
like, oh, we're really packing it all in.
But my favorite is one of the decorations they take down is a photo of Shelley and Tom. And because they're not married yet, it's not a wedding picture. It's like the two of them went to a Sears and had a photo taken together. I don't know if you caught that.
I didn't, but I like that you referenced them going to a Sears to get their photo taken.
Well, that's what it looks like. It's like they pulled down the background and he put his one hand on her shoulder and kind of cocked his head to a 45-degree angle, and she cocked her head.
Can we get the gray with the lasers?
They want the fake forest. It's very much a Sears portrait studio picture that they have together for some reason. I guess they just took a couple's photo. I just love that it's not a picture of them at the Eiffel Tower or in front of the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, or just having a picnic or, doing anything. It's no, they went into the portrait studio and had a photo made. Then they cut to, okay, we have to buy a house, and it's another one of these weird POV shots of a guy eating a donut and flipping through a paper 3-ring binder of houses, and he's like, this one's only an 8-hour commute. But it made me think, I know, this is neither here nor there, but I know a lady who commutes to my office in Maryland from Virginia, close to 2 hours each way every single
Alexandria?
day. No, further than that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Alexandria to D.C. is not so bad.
It's for all the gays who claim to live in D.C. live.
Oh, there's no gayborhood in D.C.?
I mean, there is, but a lot of the people who are I'm in Alexandria.
Anyway, so we meet the sexy conductor who, I'm going to ruin this for you, I'm so sorry, sounds exactly like Tommy Wiseau from The Room.
Oh, wow, you're right.
Yeah. I conduct the music.
I mean,
I am the conductor.
If you put a terrible blonde wig on Tommy Wiseau, they would look similar.
Well, this guy's face looks less mumpsy than Tommy Wiseau.
Mumpsy.
Having
sounds like a child, like a educational child's cartoon about the mumps. My name's Mumpsy.
Don't touch my goiter. It'll make a lot of pain for me. And it made me think, so I have recently gone to a couple of orchestra shows thanks to a really great discount that the Baltimore Symphony has. And I made this comment kind of in jest while at one of these performances. We went to see Jurassic Park perform with the live orchestra, which was very cool. And I know that I couldn't just get up there and do it now, but do you think if I took 2 weeks, I could conduct a piece of music that I was incredibly familiar with, like the main title from Jurassic Park?
With 2 weeks and like something, it would basically be like learning. I equate it to like learning like a 3 sentences in a language perfectly. Like you could do that in 2 weeks. You wouldn't know anything else, but like you would know, like you just learned that. I think so.
That's what I was, because like at a certain level, these musicians are not in super dire need of you, right? Like obviously a good conductor helps a performance in many ways, and I'm not trying to take away from the conducting. I'm just saying, as
the
a
Conductors
guy,
Guild of America is going to come for us so hard.
CGA is tweeting so furiously; their fingers are on fire. Yeah, but I was thinking, like, you know, I have air guitared and air saxophone and air whatever. I've certainly air conducted a piece of music in my car, and there are songs that I could probably realistically know, you know, enough of the beats and where to point at the people, and I feel like I think this is an interesting magazine article is what I'm saying. I guess that's what I'm building to, is I need to do an article for a magazine.
Yes. Maestro's Monthly.
No, just it has to be like in a regular magazine. It's not like a Maestro's Monthly. I don't think is the right place for it. But like, you know,
like, here's Joe Schmo trying to do our job.
But that's the problem. If I do it good, they're boned. Like, they don't want that getting out. Suddenly, all the conductors nationwide have been fired.
You just have to learn how to conduct properly is the only thing.
Well, you know, maybe I put my own little spin on it.
I mean, no, that's not really how orchestra conducting works.
I think it'd be fine. It's like a jam
This isn't
band,
a Disney
right?
Channel original movie about the kid who desperately wants to be a conductor in his own cool way.
I think people would get into it if they saw me up there, like, just bip-bopping around, like, ooh, boo,
He has a glow
waving
stick.
everything.
No, because then you know what you are? You know what you are then? You're Whoopi Goldberg, and you're not actually conducting.
Whoopi Goldberg.
In the movie Sister Act, and Sister Act is back in
and
the
she's
habit.
just, like, waving her hands.
She's literally the worst conducting I've ever seen.
Anyway, I'm just trying to say, I think it would be an amusing article if I were to attempt to, you know, conduct the Jurassic Park title sequence. So Hanks cut to Tom Hanks is at a music video shoot, and
Do we know what what exactly is he?
I think he's like a manager for bands. From like, maybe he works for the label, and he's like the label liaison guy.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure if he was a lawyer of some kind.
Well, he is a lawyer.
Okay, so like entertainment law management thing. Something.
Yeah, that is the impression I get. Yeah.
We also get the great line of the band's, I guess the band's manager, he's like, here's the money, you know, here's their cut of it and here's my cut of it, just so they know how much I'm getting. And he's like, what are you talking about? Why are you giving them any money? They're used to people stealing from them. This will confuse them.
It was really great. I wrote that down too. But the other part of this that's wonderful is Tom Hanks has a real David S. Pumpkins era hair going on here. It's like old Hanks hair that's real poofy. And so he has hearing protection on, but he can't put it over the top of his poofy hair. And so he's wearing them upside down under his chin, which is a great visual.
Speaking of David S. Pumpkins, sorry to derail again, but there's a Madame Tussauds in Florida, and for the season, they dressed their Tom Hanks mannequin as David S. Pumpkins.
I actually saw that. It looks pretty fantastic. So he cuts to the meeting with his real estate guy, and it's at a jogging track. And this,
I thought it was Newman for a second.
It does. I think it might have been the guy. I didn't look this up, so it could be completely wrong. I think it might have been the guy who looks like Newman, who's in Billy Madison, who played the revolting Blob, the wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure that it was him, but I that's my guess. That's the Wayne Knight lookalike guy. But he's jogging and he's covered in sweat, and he's wearing a thing on his wrist to monitor his heartbeat.
It just tells him when it's too high. It doesn't tell him what it is. It's just an alarm to say, you're going too fast.
Yeah. Slow down. She can't take much more of this. I'm giving her all she's got. It's basically Scotty from Star Trek.
Oh, I went to like the bottom of the Titanic where they're shoveling coal in to the fires.
Yeah. But this poor guy, like, it starts beeping and beeping and beeping, and then suddenly Tom Hanks is like, "Hey, are you all right? Are you all right? Are you all right?" Smash cut to them in the back of an ambulance, and he has just had a heart attack.
And the EMT is like, "Yeah, I picked him up, what was it, like 7 times in the past past month or something like that.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. And also, I don't know if you noticed it, but the extras in the jogging sequence are some of the worst extras in anything we've ever done. They're like looking really aggressively at Tom Hanks and the other guy the whole time, like staring them down as they run by. A bunch of them all have the same sweatband on.
Oh, that's weird. I didn't notice that.
I couldn't. One of them did something like slightly weird that caught my attention, and then I couldn't take my eyes off the extras the whole time.
Okay.
Because they just keep running past.
They also show the real estate agent's pulse alarm, as he calls it, and it looks like he has a Super Nintendo strapped to his wrist.
It's a very large piece of equipment, that's for sure. Cut to Shelley Long and the conductor is coming hard after Shelley Long.
He's
like
coming in hot and coming out hot.
it's so aggressive. He's like, "Come on, come home with me. Come make love with me," or whatever he's saying. She's like, "No, like I have no interest."
Aggressively
in you that way."
not.
He's like, "We got a divorce. Get away." Meanwhile, back at Fabio's house, which I guess he hasn't moved into yet, Tom Hanks is there, and there's like 100 people just hanging out in this house. I don't know if they're like, some of them are his clients. I don't know if some of them are his friends.
Some of them were like getting the apartment or whatever ready for the maestro.
That could be, but there's also 2 people playing ping pong, and then this strange band that comes in that's all
I was
very
kind of all
bearded
about that
men.
band.
I did. Color me surprised.
No, hear me out, because it's not just
A bunch of men in dresses calling themselves Meryl Streep as a band. Imagine my surprise that this is in your wheelhouse.
No, I was all about it because of the way they were treated in the movie universe. Like,
Oh yeah,
they weren't.
It's very true.
It wasn't like, oh, hello, we're the cheap girls and we want to be called Meryl Streep. Like, that was Roger Rabbit, but also a gay dude in the 80s.
It was very Roger Rabbit. No, you're totally right.
Like, it was like,
It
oh,
is.
they were just like, oh, we're just a bunch of hunky bearded dudes and we wear dresses and we're called cheap girls and that's just our
Yeah.
band shtick. And everyone accepted that. And I was like, oh, okay, where was this? Where's more of this? Just like, here's something random.
Yeah, that took a break for like a decade between this movie and that starting to be a thing again.
Yeah, I wanted more of that.
So they find out about this house that's being sold very quickly due to some troubles that the owners have, and they decide to take a taxi out to see it, which I would guess is very expensive, knowing
Yeah.
New York.
It has to be. And then he says, keep
'Cause
the
it's-
change. And I was like, guys, no, the answer is you wait right here. We'll be back in 5 minutes exactly.
Yeah. Their plan, I guess, is to take the train back, which seems like if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you take the train out there? But oh well. But it's this enormous mansion, perhaps even the biggest house that we've ever seen on this show. One of the biggest movie houses I've ever seen.
I think so.
Which is to say, it's smaller than the house that Kevin McAllister lives in Home Alone. That's one of those things that like finally got a little traction on the internet a couple years ago. That people are like,
Yeah.
by the way, what does Mr. McAllister do for a living?
Or Mrs. McAllister.
Yeah,
What do
well,
I-
he
like-
seems the one. He in the movie, I think he's the one with the job, but I guess they both
I don't
have
know,
jobs.
it's Catherine
maybe. I don't
O'Hara.
know.
I feel like Catherine O'Hara doesn't play housewife.
But like, what do they do that they're taking the whole family to France and they have that house?
Yeah, like, what FU money do you have?
I think he's like a mob accountant.
He has to be.
Like
Like,
that's
he
that's
launders the
connection.
money for the mob.
Oh wait, headcanon. The Sticky Bandits know this and are like being sent purposely to go after him.
Oh, by a rival mob?
No, like the mob is sick of his shit and they're trying to like make sure he knows who's boss.
Oh, that makes that movie a lot better. I mean, not that it's,
'Cause they-
not that it's a bad movie, but like that makes it so much more interesting.
It is based in Chicago. We know that they're big on the organized crime there.
We do. There was a whole musical about it.
So anyway, there's this crazy old lady. She doesn't have any lights on in the house. It's all lit by candlelight, and she's doing like very big, like, my poor Carlos was deported, and I can't bear to be here.
Yeah, it sounds initially like he died, and then later we find
Yes.
out he was deported because he extradited because he was Hitler's pool boy.
Yeah, I
And
don't
so there's
quite.
there's several moments in this movie where we're just funding Nazis.
Yeah,
and I'm not.
Yeah,
We're gonna go on record as saying like the dissecting the
fuck
80s.
Nazis.
Yeah, the
Fuck
1980s
Nazis.
stance is we don't support funding Nazis.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And so this was a moment for me that I thought could have made this movie better. Again, I enjoyed this movie a lot. But if this segment of her showing them the house had more of a smoke and mirrors vibe to it, like she had curtains in doorways to like, oh, I never go in that room anymore, and that's just curtained off. Or like, I wanted more of the like, look over here while this hand is pulling your wallet out of your pocket.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that she uses this no lights on, all candles thing in order to trick them to the fact that the house is falling apart, which is fine, but it doesn't go far enough in showing it. You're absolutely right. A couple of scenes where they're looking one way and like something falls off the wall and she catches it and like puts it down a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it would be more entertaining as an audience if you knew they were getting duped before it started to fall down around their ears, I think.
And also, like, I don't know, there's something for me of some of the structural stuff that clearly wasn't an issue the night before, and now all of a sudden was. That I was like, that, like, this, how did the staircase crumble like a Lincoln Logs?
Right. The scene where he's, like, climbing the stairs and then has to make a Indiana Jones-esque leap to
Yeah, he's
get
like
across.
Uncharted up in here.
Yeah, it's pretty bananas that they were able to walk on it a day before and then suddenly it's just down.
Exactly.
So she shows the house and she gives him a little tour, and then she's like, oh, I'll drive you to the train station. And she pulls out this old Lincoln that looks like basically a train car itself.
The Otto.
Yes. Very Victorian era looking car. And they're like, oh, we love this. And she's like, well, if you buy the house, I'll throw it in too.
I was like waiting for the hand crank in the front.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a hand cranked automobile. So she drops him off at the train station, and they decide to buy it. And then Tom Hanks thinks the train is there, except it's not the train. It's like the biggest train I've ever seen in a movie comes roaring past.
Well, it was on the other side of the tracks, I think. I think it was one
I
of
thought
those
it was
like
just like a freight
two-track.
train. Okay.
Either the idea is that like, oh, you know what? We're waiting for the train. You know what? Let's buy this house. Let's buy this house. They hear the train whistle. He's like, our luck is turning
Yeah.
around, and then it's not the train.
So they have to raise $200,000, and they're going to split it. So they each need to raise $100,000 very quickly. So Tom Hanks gets $200,000 from this shitty kid. He goes to meet one of his clients, and it's like a 12-year-old
Why does he get
boy.
200?
I don't know. I think maybe she's kicking in the money for doing the repairs, and that's her like
I don't know.
half of it. In any case, he goes to visit this client of his who's like a real capital S, capital K shitty kid, and we've covered a lot of them in the show, but I think he might be the worst.
Yeah, because he has money that is his own money.
Yeah, he's like yelling at his mom, and he throws a cigarette on the carpet. And
He has his
makes her
mom
clean it
dressed
up,
like
and
Alice from.
the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a real horrible kid, and Tom Hanks is basically like, if you don't give me this money, I'm not going to like you anymore. And the kid's like, oh no, not that. Here, take my money, which is a very weird thing.
Well, I like that he still has kid logic. Like, he is a shitty kid, but
Yeah,
kid logic still applies.
yeah, exactly. So we cut to the house, and it's a shitty house montage where we just see things totally falling down around them. Tom Hanks steps through a stair, and he's like trying to repair it, and there's like all this crazy nonsense happening in the garage. And then he's trying to repair the stairs, and his way of doing that isn't to like, buy the right wood and put in a new stair. He just grabs what looks to be parts of an old park bench out of the shed and just starts nailing them down on top
I
of the
thought it
already
was-
broken stair.
I thought it was like an old crate. It was like, well, here's an
Yeah.
old crate that I'm taking apart and just terrible with a hammer.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, why is this your... I mean, I guess they said they don't have any money, but still, like, at least cut it to the right side. It's got, like, random bits sticking out of it. It's very bizarre looking. Also, I'm pretty sure this movie is why home inspections exist. Like, if they didn't already, this is when our country was like, all
You
right,
think the
we have
Money
to
Pit
stop.
starring Tom Hanks and Shelley Long is the reason our country has home inspections.
I do. I think they were like, clearly the American people are being hosed by former Nazi pool boys, so we're gonna have to put a stop to this, and that's why we have home inspections today. Because you send in a home inspector, and this house is not getting sold. So Shelley Long is like looking at a dumbwaiter, and she opens it up, and a raccoon comes out of it and just like ferociously attacks her. So she's screaming and screaming.
Attacks the
Tom
hell
Hanks
out of
starts
her.
to run up the stairs, and it really does. But this is the point we just talked about, where Tom Hanks is running up the stairs, and they're like slowly detaching from the side of the second story. And he like leaps up and grabs a handful of the top stair, and is dangling for his life. And then Shelley Long is trying to see what's happening to him, and he's like, "You're standing on my hand." And then she moves her foot, and he falls so far and so hard onto stairs. He would have broken his spine in so many places.
He would have been shattered. He would have been a bag of soup.
This is one of like 4 or 5 times in this movie where Tom Hanks has a ridiculous pratfall that would have absolutely killed any mortal man. What I'm trying to say is I think Tom Hanks in this movie is unbreakable.
Yeah, which inspired M. Night Shyamalan. And now his new sequel, Glass.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is.
And then there's a really great moment where he's fixing the front door because he had to kick it in when Shelley Long was trapped on the bed. So he screws it back in, and he's on the outside of the door. So I'm thinking he's gonna shut it and he's gonna have locked himself out again. No. The movie does you one better. He's like, "Oh, this door works fine," and then he goes inside the house and shuts the door behind him. And the whole door jamb and like support structure just falls flat off.
It's really an awesome looking thing.
It's so good.
It's one of several really great like destruction of house moments in this movie. The bathtub
there's a lot of
that
them.
comes up. Yeah, they're really great looking. Clearly, some money was spent to make these look good, and I appreciate that. So they bring in a bunch of people to. Well, first they try to go to sleep, and then it starts raining, and it just the roof is basically Swiss cheese or a sieve or something. It's just water everywhere. So the next day is like, okay, we got to bring in some people to fix the house. So the first one that comes is a plumber played by Joe Mantegna.
Carpenter. The carpenter's first
Yeah,
plumber's
yeah, he's a carpenter. Yes, I wrote down. You're right. He's a carpenter.
Because I wrote fucking garbage misogynist carpenter.
Yes, yeah, you're correct. He starts going after Shelley Long, and then when Tom Hanks is like, "That's my girlfriend, you idiot," he's like, "Oh, normally when women call for a carpenter, they're looking to get a nail, you know?" And he like is putting his face. It's like, first of all, nailed is the obvious thing you should have said here, you ding ding. And then second of all, like the putting the finger through the circle in the other hand is like really, really embarrassing for you as an adult male.
Like literally every dude in this movie is just like coming in real hot for Shelley Long, like right out the gate.
Which I mean, fair.
She's not unattractive. It's just like literally
Yeah.
everyone is like. It's like that episode of Buffy when everyone falls in love with Xander.
Yes. I also like the part later where Tom Hanks and Shelley are like making out in bed and fooling around a little bit, and there's like 9 guys watching them having donuts and coffee out the window.
They're real quick to forgive this gross man and be like, "Let's hire him. His brother's a plumber." Which, like, I get you're down on your luck.
Yes, exactly. They're very desperate. They need their house fixed, and they're struggling. So she starts practicing the violin, and Tom Hanks goes outside to, I guess, pee, and he gets attacked by a bee or
He
something.
really pees and everything.
Yeah. Tom Hanks, he does pee in every movie. It's like Tom Hanks' trademark. That's a real thing. You can look it up. We're not going to rehash the whole deal, but Tom Hanks really does pee in like the majority of his movies. But I love when he goes to carve their initials in this tree that had someone else's initials carved in already, and it just falls down, and it's like a domino tower of trees, just like crack, crack,
There's
crack,
like
crack.
tiny
It's
grove
really
just
fantastic.
crumbles. We also,
Yeah,
but
it's
I
wonderful.
also, there's a moment earlier where Shelley Long is gonna like cook something. So she goes to light the stove, which I was like, oh God, I can't even imagine if I had to light a stove every single time I wanted to cook something. I just wouldn't do it.
Oh, you had to get a match out? That would be the end of it for
Yeah,
you?
like they had to get a match to light the gas in the stove.
So they're carrying water upstairs, which is now not stairs, but a
From
ladder.
the fountain.
Yes, that's the only running water they have.
I know, I was just clarifying for the audience.
So they hold a bucket up to the fountain where the little boy looks like he's peeing, and then they fill the bucket, and then they carry it inside. But they're both simultaneously climbing this ladder, and they're
Horrible
also doing
idea.
it, but they're also doing it like, as you said before, as if he's trying to smell her neck. Like they're climbing up. He is as soon as she moves a foot, his hand is grabbing that same rung. It's like, one of you should be holding the ladder and the other should be, climbing. And two,
She goes up first while you
there
hold the
has to be
bottom. She holds the top while you climb up. It's
Yeah.
a thing.
and maybe grab a rope and use it to pull the buckets up so you're not carrying a unsteady, heavy object up a ladder. Like, insanity. So they're boiling water to take a bath, and they're filling up the tub and doing this. And it made me think of the saddest thing that's happened to me in a very long time, which is I live in an apartment, and it's a house that's split into 2 apartments. And for some reason, unbeknownst to logic or any greater understanding of how things work, the water heater was attached to my neighbor's power breaker. So when my neighbor upstairs decided to stop paying his bills, I no longer had access to hot water.
I never knew
this had
this.
happened. Oh, I can't believe I haven't told you the story before. So it happened one day where, like, I got up to take a shower in the morning, and it was towards the end of a month, and there was no hot water. So I took, like, a very crappy cold shower and was angry about it and went to work. And then that night when I came home, there was hot water. So I was like, oh, he must have, like, washed a bunch of clothes and used the hot water. It happens. Timing was bad, whatever. Cut to, like, a month later, there's no hot water. And then I come home from work and there's still no hot water. And I wake up the next morning and there's still no hot water. And it's like, okay, well, let me take another miserable cold shower. And it's wintry, so it's miserable. Like, I'm taking like a Navy shower. It's like turn the water on, get wet, turn the water off, lather up, and rinse off. So I'm having like just the miserablest way to wake up. So I contact the landlord, and they're like, oh, I don't know what's happened. This guy must not have paid the bill. So they start fighting with him. Then they contact me, and they're like, oh, he didn't pay the bill, and he's not going to, and we're in the process of evicting him. And I was like, okay, well, surely there has to be a solution to this problem. And they're like, well, we're going to have to, like,
Is
take
there a
over
meantime?
Yeah, they're like, well, we're going to have to take over the bill and get the thing handed over to us. And I'm like, can't you just, like, get an electrician to put the thing on my breaker box so that I can, like, deal with this? And they're like, yeah, no, I think we can do that. Oh, okay. And a day goes by, another day goes by. Meanwhile, I'm showering at the gym now. Like, I have to shower, and it's throwing off my whole routine. I'm a morning shower guy. I know this is not a piece of information the general public needs to know, but like, I'm a morning shower guy. So if I go to the gym at night, I'll shower there, but then I'll also want to shower in the morning. So I'm like, all discombobulated for like, it's going on a whole week. I'm telling my boss about the situation. Like, I got to be ready to leave at a moment's notice because I got to get this thing fixed. So they tell me that they fixed it, and I come home from the gym having not showered because I thought I could take a shower in my house, and I was like really looking forward to this shower.
Yeah.
Turns out what they meant when they said they fixed it was that they got an electrician who would come out and move it, but not that he had done that. So here I am putting every pot that I have on the stove and boiling water so that I can take a bath in the year of our Lord 2017. And that is the saddest thing that's happened to me in this house related to the house. Cut to the electrician shows up to fix this problem, and the electrician's like, wait, have you not had hot water? And I was like, nope, not for almost 10 days now. And he was like, if they had told me that, I would have come out here that night. Like, I thought this was just like a standard electrical outlet issue that was not emergency. And I was like, are you kidding? And he's like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, I know it's ridiculous. I haven't had water in 10 days. I'm going crazy. And he's like, I am so sorry. Like, they're so dumb. Like, had they mentioned this at all, I would have just I could have come out and fixed it that night. It would have taken, he's like, I'm only going to be here for like 10 minutes. And he literally took him like 10 minutes to fix this problem. I left the angriest voicemail I've ever left for my landlord, and I was like, "Call me back, you son of a bitch! Like, how could you do this?" So anyway, that's
do
the
this to
story
people.
Eventually I was like, "Hey, I'm not paying rent for those 10 days, FYI." And they're like, "That's a reasonable offer. Here's your money back." But anyway, that's the story of how I had to boil water to take a bath in 2016. So
Tom Hanks goes to get the last bucket of boiled water, And for some reason, the kitchen seems to be the only place in the house that has electricity and gas and is working order. So he goes, the TV is on, it's Julia Child, and the water's not done boiling, so he goes over and turns on a light switch to read a letter, and it starts this really awesome, visually amazing destruction of the kitchen sequence where it felt very like Muppet Movie or like Muppet Treasure Island when they're following the black powder that's lit on fire.
Absolutely.
This spark runs all the way around the kitchen, going through cabinets, knocking the tiles out of the wall, sparking out all the plugs, and then it's
supposed to be tracing the wiring in the wall from outlet to outlet.
Yes. And then it gets to the TV, and it explodes the TV.
It also makes a popcorn maker go crazy. It sets the blender on fire for margaritas.
It melts itself. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is really great. But the other thing about this that I thought was nuts is hey, bud, this just solved your problem. Just get out of the kitchen and act like you didn't know this happened.
Yeah, real easy, bro.
This is an electrical fire that is clearly going to be established as an electrical fire, and you get to get all your insurance money for this house. You did it, Tom. You figured out the solution. You committed fraud, sort of. Get out of there and let the house burn down.
Well, that's assuming they have insurance.
Well, gosh, I hope they do. It seems like with this house, that would have been a given. It also makes the oven go nuts, and the oven launches a turkey as a missile into the bathroom where Shelley Long is. And Tom Hanks comes in a few minutes later and is like, oh, there's the turkey, and the little timer pops out of it.
Turkey's done. So they pour the last of the water into the bathtub, and it crashes through the floor and just shatters on the first floor.
Very cool looking. Porcelain everywhere. Also, Tom Hanks' shirt is all burnt up because of the kitchen fire, and it's
both
very
nipples.
I can't believe you took the punchline of that before I said it. Yes, it is very strategically burned to expose not one, but two nipples.
It's like Mean Girls when they cut Regina's tank top to show her boobs and her bra, and she's just like, whatever. And I was like, that's what this is. This is just you cut two holes around his nipples for some reason.
Somebody on set wanted to see them Hanks nips is the obvious answer. It also has this awesome shot from the first floor up to the second with them leaning over the hole where the bathtub was, and Tom Hanks does this amazingly wonderful maniacal laugh of just ah ha 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 ha, I can't believe
everything is awful.
Yeah, it's delightful. So they have this resigned to their fate moment, and they finally decide no, let's raise the money, let's fix this house.
They say the title.
That's right. He calls the house a money pit. So they somehow struggle to get any contractors to come out because they say they're in the middle of nowhere. But certainly there are men and women who construct houses and things out not in New York City.
They're also a cab ride away from New York. So
yeah,
a poor person's cab ride. So they can't be that far.
Yeah. But what ends up happening is the gang from Mad Max shows up.
This hot buff leather dude is there.
There's a guy with a flaming guitar, and I was like, wow, I can't believe that was in 1988 and not, they stole that thing.
It was like in Weird Science.
Yeah, exactly. There's these long bamboo poles that people are swinging on. It's well, that George whatever his name is from Mad Max stole all these bits from his. No, we're being ridiculous, but it really is Mad Max-esque. There are these very strange shapes and vehicles pull up, and there's 50 guys that just start descending on this house and swinging hammers and ripping stuff and breaking
and
stuff.
Women in bikinis.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. So they destroy this house, and then Tom Hanks comes home, and the house is in shambles. And he's like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, you don't have any permits. We got to wait till you have permits, and then we can do more work." And Hanks has a delightful flip out, which I love a good 1980s era Tom Hanks flip out. It's some peak Tom
really
Hanks
good.
for me. Yeah. So he gets on the phone with an inspector who's basically I'll come out there right now, but you need to bribe me in cash. And he starts counting money in his wallet, and he steps on this carpet and then just slowly sinks into a hole in the floor until he's trapped with his hands in front of his chest.
Like a T-Rex.
And then Yeah. And then they basically do the scene from Christmas Vacation where he's just trapped up there having to entertain himself, except he doesn't even have old home movies and weird grandma clothes to put on.
And he can't really use his arms.
No, he can't. So he's like singing to himself. He's doing like banana fana fofana me my momana. Yeah.
The permit guy comes and goes because he thinks Tom Hanks is laughing at him inside.
Yeah, that dude really doesn't like. You'd think where a situation where the house's door is just loosely leaned against the frame, he would
poke your
open
head
it
in.
and yell. Yeah, you do a poke in. You absolutely do.
You see the Jumanji legs in the first floor, and you go, "Oh, someone's up there."
Jumanji legs, absolutely. So he's supposed to pick up Shelley Long at the train station, and when he doesn't come, she gets a ride from an 18-wheeler. And then she's coming in the house looking for him. And this is one of my favorite scenes where she's like, I genuinely don't remember the character's name. So she's like, Tom Hanks? Walter. And he's like, I'm up here, like yelling for his life. And she opens the door of the room that he's in, or she turns the lights on in the room that he's in, and then steps right back out.
Because
like,
there's
no.
a chair in front of him.
Yeah. And she's like, where are you? He's like, I'm in the den. She's like, I was just in the den. He's like, I saw you. I know you were in here. So she finally discovers him. And when she goes to like help him, she basically like touches him and he falls all the way through the
She
floor.
whack-a-moles him.
Yeah. Poor Tom Hanks would be so dead.
So this is another moment of reality question, because when they show his Jumanji legs, there's like a ring around his legs as though there's like some molding and it's like a specific thing. So what the hell was there?
I thought it was supposed to be, like you said, like a piece of molding, like a center of an arch.
No, it was like this. It was
or
like
a center of a dome.
Oh, okay. That can make sense.
Yeah. But yeah, they never explain.
So Shelley Long has come back from selling her stuff that she got from the divorce with the maestro. And she's just like, look, I only wanted the stuff because I thought you wanted it. Buy it back from me. Come on, let's go. And Tom Hanks and her are talking. It's freezing out because our house is full of holes. They're wearing a million layers.
Yeah. There's just like 6-foot holes in the walls of the bedroom.
The plastic is just like billowing in the wind.
Yeah. So he goes to put another log in the fire, and he throws the fakest log I've ever seen into this fire.
Oh, it's real
like,
bad.
I don't know who made this prop log, and I'm sorry for calling you out, but it is a bad prop log. But he throws it in, and then the entire fireplace cascades through the hole in the wall until the top comes and belches soot into his face.
For like a solid minute, it just crumbles.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we cut to, it's time to fix up the house, and the Mad Max crew is back, and they got the permits, and they're
The outside looks really good for this moment. I didn't realize it was the same house.
Yeah, no, it does. It does look very quickly okay on the outside, but inside is an absolute shambles. And they keep telling him, "Oh, it'll be 2 weeks till we're done. 2 weeks till we're done." And they've apparently already been there for 4 months, which I cannot imagine how much this project would cost.
Oh my god, I don't even know. But Shelley and Tom are getting real punchy.
Well, you know,
I get it.
I think it's okay in the context of this movie.
But I was just like, no, guys, no.
So there's a great scene where he goes to get her some water, and the stairs are finally installed, and he's like, "The stairs are here! Oh my god!"
It's like
and
in
Shelley Long
Castaway
is
when he
like-
opens the crab.
Yes, exactly. And Shelley Long is like, "Yeah, great. Go get my pail of water so I can bathe because we live in a hellhole." And it has, I think, my favorite moment in the whole movie where she opens the medicine cabinet and there's a guy standing right there whose face is like perfectly framed in this little hole. And she's like, "Oh, I need a Pepsid," or whatever she asked for, some sort of medicine. And he hands it to her and he's like, "Oh, by the way, you're almost out of birth control." And he like flips open her little birth control pack and there's like 2 pills left in it. And she is so mad at this guy. But I also, it's like the goofiest
living
version
app.
of, yeah, exactly. Or I was thinking like mirror, mirror on the wall. And he's like, "You look great today, honey. Also, you need more birth control."
Also, pick up that PC. And like everything's coming together. We find out that the water now works that's in the pipes. And the stairs are there, and there's just so much good happening. And I was like, I swear to God, movie, you have 30 minutes left. You cannot give us another setback. Like, I will not.
You didn't expect this to come?
It wasn't. Well, it wasn't because it wasn't. So what I wrote was, "Thank God it's just I literally was writing the note as I watched the rest of this shit happen and went, never mind, he just destroyed the scaffolding while dressed like the American Horror Story nun.
She unplugs something to plug in a kettle, and it's a table saw, and then the table saw gets launched into the air by Tom Hanks on like a teeter-totter setup, and then she plugs it back in, and the table saw activates and cuts through the thing that it landed on, and then it's this like Rube Goldberg-esque Final Destination contraption, except he doesn't die at the end, even though he would totally have died at the end.
Yeah, he would be a dead body floating through the air.
But he like gets launched like a missile, and then he's covered in plaster, and then he falls down the scaffolding, and then he ends up in a cart, and then the cart rolls down a hill and launches him into the fountain. And I was like, oh, the fountain wasn't peeing at that moment. I was like, oh, this is going to end with the fountain turning back on and peeing on his head. And it did.
I didn't get the fountain. I didn't clock the fountain part, but I was everything else. I was like, come on. I was just glad there was no house destruction. It was just a scaffolding destruction.
Yeah, because if this house had crumbled, that would have been, like, I think they would have been justifiable in killing one another.
I would have turned this movie off and been like, Trip, I watched an hour of this movie. I refuse to watch the last half hour. I will contribute till then. And Trip explains the movie to Andrew.
Yes, it's just like me recapping the plot slowly. Mercifully, that is not what happens. But instead, we get a weird turn that I wasn't in love with. Where,
no, it wasn't necessary.
And I honestly, I would have rather had another obstacle with the house be the thing that causes the big conflict between them. But instead, what happens is she, is exhausted, as you would be in this situation. And for some reason, she doesn't need to go home that night. It's not really explained why she doesn't need to go home.
She does. She just ends up not.
But he doesn't go home that night either. He doesn't think it's that weird.
Maybe he was working late?
Could be. But she ends up spending the night at her former house with her ex-husband. And they wake up in bed together, and he implies that they had sex. And she doesn't have any memory of that, which is like, oh, he's a huge piece of shit, obviously. And she gets home, and Hanks seems to know what's going on. She's, rushing home. Meanwhile, Hanks is also rushing home, and he's gotten a pizza delivery boy to also deliver him.
In an electric light parade car?
Yes, it's covered in these little lights. It's so cool. It's also singing like a jingle. It's very ridiculous.
It's like an ice cream truck, but a pizza truck.
Right. So he seems to know that something has gone on, and she doesn't really cop to it. And so they go to sleep that night, and she can't go to sleep. She's all guilty feeling, and she confesses to him while he's pretty much unconscious. And then he doesn't seem bothered by it at all, but smash cut to a huge screaming match about this.
I really didn't like this fight.
No. And it's in front of all the dudes who are working there.
No, it starts before the dudes are there. It starts at night.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
When he literally says, I'm not going to be mad if you slept with him. I'm going to be more mad you didn't tell me. I can handle it. Just tell me the truth. And then she does, and he responds by calling her a whore. And I was like, whoa. Can we back up for a moment, please?
Yeah. But they both look like villains here, though, because so he wakes up on a ping pong table they're using as a kitchen table, and these guys are like, "Oh, she kicked you out of bed." Da 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 da. And then she comes downstairs, and they start having this fight again in front of everybody, and it's a very ugly, we're breaking up. Fine, we'll wait till the house is finished, and then we can split the cost or split the profits after we sell it, blah 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 blah. But it's just this awful voyeuristic thing of everybody's watching this horrible moment for these people, and then we as the audience are watching this horrible moment for them. And then she is basically saying to, I guess the conductor shows up not too long after this, and is basically
we do get a good joke in there first before the conductor shows up. Because he says something stupid, and Shelley Long comes back in the doorway and goes, "You're such an idiot. I'm surprised you even passed the bar." And he goes, "Well, you've never passed a bar in your life." Because apparently now which was a great zinger, but I was like, apparently now she's an alcoholic?
Yeah, there's been no indication that this is a problem for her.
This was an early drafts joke that we forgot to take out.
But the thing that's crazy to me is she's talking to the conductor, And he's like, oh, by the way, I made it up. We didn't have sex, which is
Why does he get a redemption
Weird.
story?
yeah, exactly. But also her thing is like, oh, he couldn't forgive me. And that's the thing that bothers me. It's like, you thought that you cheated on him with your ex-husband. Like him not immediately rushing to forgiveness is not that weird.
No, it's not. He will get there. But also, why did this conductor get a redemption story?
I don't understand it at all. He's the villain for the whole movie, and then at the end it's like, oh, just kidding, like, you're a wonderful woman and I wish I could have someone like you. And then, like, not too long after is conducting at their wedding, and I was like, wait a minute, what on earth is happening right now? What am I looking at here?
Yeah, no thank you, ma'am. I was like, this is too weird now.
So she, finds out that she didn't cheat on him, and we cut to the repairman who's like, well, it's a lot of work in this house, and it was really, really tough, but we managed to do it. And then he has this like relationship. They're in opposite rooms, like 100 yards from each other, and he's standing directly in the middle. And he starts going on with this like perfect relationship meta that's like, with these houses, if the foundation is good, you can make any sort of repair and get past anything that comes up. It's like, boy, that's a little on the nose, huh?
Yeah, I was like,
Seems
wait, so both shitty dudes get to take credit and redemption for getting them back together? That's what it took?
But I just love him as like the magic exposition dump of like, oh, it's wonderful if your house is okay, if your house has a good foundation. Like, oh, that feels like a metaphor for your. I mean, I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but it feels like a metaphor for your romantic life, doesn't it, guys?
He like might as well have looked down the barrel of the camera and winked.
Yeah, exactly. So Hanks comes to talk to Shelley Long, and he's like, look, I don't care about the conductor. I'm sorry. It's not that big of a deal, which, like, time out. It's a really giant deal also.
It's
but
something
fine.
it's something to like, it's a discussion to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's like, oh, well, we didn't really sleep together, so everything's fine. And they're like, oh, good. Yay, I guess we can just end
It
this
took
movie
that
now.
long to tell the truth?
Yeah, what
Like,
the hell,
you learned
Shelley
that
Long?
you were lied to and duped and manipulated into hopefully sleeping with a different man, and you weren't immediately like, hey, dude, I actually love, this is what's happening.
Yeah, it's very baffling. So cut to the wedding, and it's every band that Hanks mentioned or saw in the beginning playing along with the orchestra, who are doing Beethoven's Ode to Joy, which is weird to hear and not Die Hard. But also the conductor is there, and I just don't understand why he's getting to be involved in this very special moment. And then they like have a kiss in the doorway, and the guy taking their picture is the contractor. It's like, you invited the contractor to your wedding?
I mean, he'd been a part of their lives for a while.
I guess, but that just seems
When you
so
contract
crazy.
for a full year for a person.
Meanwhile, down in Rio de Janeiro, Tom Hanks's dad is buying a house quickly, and it turns out it's from the woman who sold this house to young Hanks, not his dad, and Carlos, who is alive and well and seems in perfectly good health. So are they just running
is still
like
a Nazi.
grift con? Yeah. Again,
He
still
says
a
Auf
Nazi.
Wiedersehen. Like, he's very much still a Nazi.
But like, what are we supposed to draw conclusion-wise here?
grift.
Like, yeah, do they like buy shitty houses and make them look expensive and then sell them for like, I don't, what do they do? What is the grift? It's clearly a grift.
They go on Craigslist. They find the cheapest houses they can. They spackle and sandpaper them to look kind of okay. Only let people see them in the dark by candlelight.
Yeah, it's a very specific weird con, but it's definitely some kind of con. So what are your final thoughts on The Money Pit?
It's really enjoyable. It's got the last act is weird, and I think could have gone somewhere else and been just as effective. Like, I didn't need Shelley Long as a whore to be the conflict.
No.
Like, that was
No.
idiotic.
Yeah,
Especially because the whole time she's been like independent and her own person, and like she's the one who didn't want to get married, not Tom Hanks. Like, she's very much an interesting character, and then all of a sudden it's just like, you're a whore, you're an alcoholic, and I was like,
Yeah.
hang on, hard left.
Yeah, no, I thought that was really lame as well. But they have really good chemistry, and the first hour of this is really good. It's also on Netflix, which we didn't mention, but it's easy to get for once for one of our movies. I would also recommend this. I think it's a pretty fun Tom Hanks movie. Shelley Long is excellent in it. Yeah, I would recommend this. I think it might even be a fun. Maybe if you watch this one first and then you watch Troop Beverly Hills, and you get like a good Shelley Long double feature in it, where like she doesn't get to be a strong independent woman and then she gets to be one.
In for the long haul.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Host a movie night. In for the long haul.
And all of your friends will hate you. But I am totally on board with that. You get like Shelley Long in the second movie becoming like a powerful independent woman and not needing any male influence would be a nice palate cleanser after the weird like, also you're a whore and you're the reason why this doesn't work of this. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys so much for celebrating T Hanksgiving with us. Another year, another delicious Tom Hanks vehicle for you to celebrate with. One of the many goofy traditions we have on this show. If you'd like to get a hold of us or find out more about the show, we're on all the social media. It's Dissecting the 80s on Facebook, and it's Dissect the 80s on Twitter, no ING. You can also call the Dissecting the 80s hotline at 856-DISSECT. But most importantly, podcasts are the most wonderful pyramid scheme because they don't cost anything. So if you like the show, please tell 2 friends about it. It really helps spread the word and get us out there and in front of more listeners, and we really appreciate that. And if you haven't yet, please take the time to review the show. It doesn't take very long to do, and it means a whole lot to us. So if you could take the time to do that, we would really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to check out Who the F Are These Guys, Andrew's web series, which is available on YouTube. That's EFF, Who the F Are These Guys. And consider jumping in on the Indiegogo campaign they are running to raise money for more episodes. That will do it for this episode. We will see you in 2 weeks for the release of Star Wars. Well, we'll be early for the release of Star Wars, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. We will be back with
Droids, the cartoon series, which I've been told is the closest I'm going to get to Droid Babies as we're going to find.
the Muppet Babies crossover with the droids that Andrew so desperately wants.
I just want more Muppet Baby stuff.
Thank you again so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for listening. I have been Trip Leno.
I will always be Andrew Leno.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production. Things we're gonna cut out in editing. Until next time, I have been Trip Leno.
I will always be Andrew Leno.
Wait, I fucked that up.
Yep. I was like, wait, no.
Yeah.